You gonna break before you bend? You gonna fold just because it hurts? Let me ask you something real. What do you do when nothing's working and quitting looks like the only door open? I'll tell you what you do. You stay hard. Not because it feels good, but because it's who you are. See, everybody can shout when it's sunny, but warriors, they train in the dark. You still think strength is just about muscles and miles. Nah. Strength is when they betray you and you don't flinch. When they overlook you and you keep showing up. When everything in your flesh says react, but your spirit whispers be still. That's power. That's staying hard. Some of you are breaking because you keep trying to feel your way through a fight that requires faith, not feelings. You keep touching the same fire, expecting it not to burn and calling it love. You keep waiting on validation when God already gave you a vocation. And until you detach from the approval, detach from the applause, detach from needing someone to say good job, you'll keep building houses on sand. But when you stay hard, you build on rock. Listen to me. Staying hard don't mean you ain't got a heart. It means your heart is guarded by wisdom. It means you ain't driven by every wind of mood, every wave of feeling. You got your hands on the plow and your eyes on the harvest, and you ain't turning back. Some of y'all need to make peace with being misunderstood. You think staying hard is about pushing back? No, it's about pulling up, rising above, staying calm while they scream, staying still while they slander. Not because you're weak, but because you've already won in the spirit. That's divine detachment. You can't be a soldier and a slave at the same time. You can't be chained to emotion and claim you're walking in purpose. Detached doesn't mean disconnect. It means elevate. It means you feel it, but it don't own you. You hear the noise, but you stay tuned to the frequency of your mission. I stayed hard when I had nothing. I stayed hard when doors closed. When people ghosted, when the bank account laughed at me, I stayed hard because I knew this fire is not to burn me, it's to brand me, to mark me with greatness. And if I crack every time it gets tough, how will I ever carry the weight of destiny? You praying for blessings, but you're not preparing your back to carry them. You want crowns, but can't wear crosses. You want gold, but can't handle the heat of the furnace. Staying hard is about showing up when it's cold, when it's lonely, when nobody's clapping. You don't stay for the crowd. You stay for the cause. I ain't talking about toxic pride. I'm talking about holy posture. A stance that says no matter what happens around me, I will not bow to fear. I will not kneel to despair. I will not serve my feelings. I will submit to the assignment. Detach from what they said. Detach from what you lost. Detach from the need to explain yourself to people who never understood your call. And run. Run with endurance. Run with clarity. Run with grit. Stay hard, not so you can flex, but so you don't faint. You want to know what makes a lion the king? It ain't because it's the fastest. It ain't because it's the smartest. It's because it believes it is. And it moves like it is. It detaches from comparison, from doubt, from fear, and it claims the jungle. When will you claim yours? Stay hard, not out of anger, but out of purpose. Not to prove something, but because you were built for something. You don't need the world to understand it. You just need to become it. And the moment you detach from what don't matter, you unlock what does. Stay hard, stay rooted, stay free, stay faithful. Pain is not the enemy. Attachment to ease is. Most people spend their whole lives running from pain like it's a curse, but in truth, pain is the passport to transformation. It's not the pain itself that breaks you. It's the illusion that life should be easy. It's the grip you have on comfort, on familiarity, on the soft pillow of routine that makes you weak. We weren't designed to grow in comfort. Comfort numbs, comfort blinds. It gives you a false sense of progress. But pain wakes you up. Pain tells you the truth. Pain reveals where you're still fragile, still unprepared, still holding on to things that can't go with you to the next level. See, there's a generation out here trying to avoid pain at all costs. They want the gains without the grind. They want elevation without pressure. But you can't have resurrection without crucifixion. You can't walk into purpose still clinging to pleasure. The real threat isn't that you'll suffer. The real threat is that you'll be so emotionally attached to ease that you'll forfeit every opportunity that requires endurance. The moment hardship shows up, people run. The moment it gets uncomfortable, they change course. But what they don't realize is God hides greatness inside struggle. He puts diamonds in dirt. He buries strength under weight. You have to lift the pain if you want the power. You keep asking why it hurts, why you're going through what you're going through. But let me ask you, why are you still so attached to things being smooth? Who told you that life was supposed to be fair? Who told you that purpose wouldn't come with pressure? You're not broken because you're in pain. You're being broken open. You're not dying. You're being reborn. But rebirth feels like death when you're still attached to the womb of ease. You want to be hard. You want to be unshakable, but you don't want to let go of soft living. That's the contradiction. You're praying for strength, but avoiding the struggle. You can't grow muscle if you keep dropping the weight. And the biggest weight is the lie that you should never feel pain. That lie will trap you in mediocrity. It will convince you to sit when you should stand, to stay when you should move, to hide when you should fight. The secret ain't in avoiding pain. The secret is in detaching from your need for things to feel good all the time. When you let go of that need, when you accept that pain is part of the process, you stop reacting and start responding. You stop running and start rising. You stop blaming and start building. The pain becomes your teacher, not your enemy. It becomes the fire that forges you, not the storm that destroys you. So no, pain isn't the enemy. The real enemy is your addiction to ease, your obsession with comfort, your refusal to endure. Let that go, and you become dangerous. Let that go, and you unlock the power to stay hard. Detachment is not coldness, it's clarity. Most people confuse emotional detachment with indifference. Like pulling back means you no longer care. Like being still means you're dead inside. But that's not it. True detachment is not about becoming numb, it's about becoming aware. It's about seeing clearly what's worth your energy and what's just noise. When you're emotionally attached to everything, you lose control. You let people's opinions sway your direction. You let temporary emotions steer long-term decisions. You let fear become the voice that drives your action. But when you detach, not from life, but from the drama, the distractions, the dysfunction, you gain clarity. You stop reacting and you start operating. You don't need to be angry to be strong. You don't need to cry every time someone disappoints you. You don't need to fight every battle just because your ego gets bruised. Emotional detachment says, I see what's happening, but I'm not letting it take me off course. That's power. When you stay centered, grounded, focused, no matter what storm is around you, that's spiritual maturity. That's wisdom. That's a warrior's mindset. You don't detach because you don't love. You detach so your love doesn't become entangled with toxicity. You don't detach because you don't feel. You detach so your feelings don't override your principles. You learn to step back, not because you're distant, but because you're discerning, because you understand not everything deserves your full emotional investment. Some things are sent to distract you, to bait you, to drain you. And if you're not clear, you'll chase things that don't matter and miss the things that do. Clarity is a gift, but it only comes to those who are willing to step outside the chaos. That means learning to observe your emotions without becoming your emotions. You can feel angry without being led by anger. You can feel disappointed without sinking into despair. You can feel joy without becoming attached to the feeling itself. That's detachment. That's presence. That's strength. When your heart is ruled by every emotion, your vision becomes cloudy. You see people as enemies when they're really broken. You see opportunities as threats when they're actually growth. You see challenges as punishments when they're really preparation. Detachment helps you recalibrate. It sharpens your focus. It gives you the space to align with truth, not just your temporary mood. You don't need to shut down to stay focused. You need to rise above. And rising above means letting go of what doesn't serve the mission. Letting go of needing to be understood all the time. letting go of every urge to explain yourself, defend your name, prove your worth. When you know who you are and why you're here, you don't move emotionally, you move intentionally. So no, detachment isn't cold, it's clarity. And when you walk in clarity, you walk in peace. When you walk in clarity, you become unstoppable. When you walk in clarity, you no longer chase because everything you need starts flowing towards you. You don't need everything to go right. You just need to stay right. Life will never give you perfect conditions. It won't always be sunny. People won't always support you. Plans will fall through. Doors will close. Delays will come. But if you stay right, if you stay rooted in discipline, locked into purpose, anchored in your identity, you'll still rise, you'll still win. Too many people are chasing external perfection instead of internal alignment. They wait for the schedule to clear, the weather to improve, the stress to disappear, and until then, they pause. But greatness doesn't come to those who wait for ease. It comes to those who stay right when nothing else is. You got to stop putting your grind on hold. Just because life got chaotic, your growth can't be conditional. Your work can't depend on how you feel. You can't keep restarting every time it rains. Storms don't stop destiny. You do, when you stop showing up. But if you stay right, even when everything's going wrong, something powerful starts happening. Your consistency becomes greater than your crisis. Your focus becomes louder than your fear. And your progress becomes inevitable, even in pain. Staying right means holding yourself accountable when no one's watching. It means locking in even when everything around you is breaking down. It means refusing to let what's happening outside shake what's built inside. You think success is about opportunity, but it's about integrity. You can have all the opportunity in the world, but if your character falls under pressure, you'll never rise to meet it. You don't get results by controlling outcomes. You get results by mastering your response. Life is going to test you, not just with difficulty, but with unpredictability. And every time something unexpected hits, you'll be tempted to panic, to spiral, to start making excuses. But if your inner world is steady, you don't need the outer world to behave. If your values are solid, your mood doesn't get to be your boss. That's staying right. You might not control what they do to you, but you control how you react. You might not control the timing, but you control your readiness. You might not control their lies, but you control your truth. Stay in alignment, stay in grind mode, stay in prayer, stay in execution, stay in the moment. Because when you stay right, eventually everything else has to fall into place or fall away. Either way, you win. Don't wait for calm to find discipline. Bring discipline to the chaos. Bring order to the mess. Bring fire to the cold season. If everything had to be perfect for you to move, you never move. But if you make a decision to stay right, you won't need perfection, just persistence, just clarity, just heart. And that's enough to turn every wrong moment into the right move. That's how champions are made, not when things go right, but when they stay right. Mastering detachment is mastering freedom. Real freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want. Real freedom comes from not being owned by anything. Most people walk around thinking they're in control of their lives, but they're slaves to approval, prisoners to their emotions, addicts to comfort. They think they're free because they're not behind bars, but they don't realize the real prison is internal. It's the inability to walk away from what no longer serves you. It's the fear of letting go. It's the dependence on people, outcomes, and feelings to feel whole. When you master detachment, you break those chains. You become untouchable. Not because you don't care, but because you're not ruled by what's temporary. You got to understand, whatever owns your emotions, owns your decisions. If your confidence rises and falls based on how someone treats you, you're not free. If your joy depends on your bank account, your schedule, your likes and comments, you're not free. That's bondage dressed up in comfort. Detachment is the art of choosing peace, even when there's pressure. It's the discipline to say, I feel that, but I'm not that. I see the chaos, but I don't absorb it. I hear the noise, but I answer to the voice of purpose, not panic. When you master detachment, your soul stops negotiating with distractions. You don't flinch every time someone doubts you. You don't get derailed every time a door closes. You don't crumble because someone walked away. Your power is no longer borrowed from external things. It comes from a well inside you that doesn't run dry. That's freedom. That's what makes you unstoppable. You can't rise while holding on to everything. You can't step into your future still emotionally tied to your past. You can't walk in purpose if you need constant validation to keep going. You got to cut the cords. Detachment doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't follow every feeling. It means you process pain, but you don't build your identity around it. It means you love people, but you're not controlled by their acceptance or rejection. When you detach, you begin to focus. And when you focus, you begin to elevate. You stop getting distracted by things that used to trigger you. You stop giving power to things that don't deserve your energy. Your circle gets smaller, but your vision gets sharper. And every step you take becomes intentional. That's what happens when you stop being emotionally entangled and start being spiritually aligned. So you don't have to fight for freedom, you train for it. You detach from what pulls you down. You release what's not yours to carry. And you commit to walk in light so you can run far. This is the mindset of warriors, the posture of leaders, the secret of those who never fold. Detachment is not distance, it's dominion. And once you've mastered it, you're not just free from what held you, you're free to become who you were always meant to be. Purpose over pleasure, always. That's the line in the sand. That's the difference between those who rise and those who remain. Pleasure will tempt you every day, whispering comfort, offering ease, giving you a way out when the process gets hard. But purpose demands sacrifice. Purpose requires you to delay gratification. Purpose calls you to say no to what feels good so you can say yes to what is good. And until you make that shift, until you decide that your mission matters more than your momentary mood, you'll keep chasing highs and missing harvests. The world's addicted to pleasure. People will choose distraction over discipline and entertainment over elevation, applause over authenticity. Why? Because pleasure is easy. Pleasure doesn't ask you to grow. It doesn't stretch you. It doesn't tell you the truth about yourself. It just numbs you for a little while, then drops you off further from your purpose than you were before. But you weren't created to be numb. You weren't created to coast. You were created to move with meaning, to do something that outlives you. And if you ever want to walk in that kind of power, you got to choose purpose over pleasure every single time. That means you got to stop making decisions based on how you feel and start making them based on who you are. It means you wake up early when your body says sleep. It means you study when you rather scroll. It means you show love when you rather stay angry. Purpose doesn't make room for convenience. Purpose stretches you, disciplines you, reshapes you. And the more you chase it, the more you become someone unrecognizable to the old you. Don't get it twisted. Pleasure isn't evil. It has its place. But it was never meant to drive the car. It's a passenger, not the pilot. Purpose is what guides you through the storms, through the heartbreaks, through the lonely seasons. Pleasure will vanish when the lights go out, but purpose will sit with you in the dark and remind you why you started. That's why you got to anchor to something deeper than comfort. There will be days when quitting feels like a reward, when shortcuts look good, when compromise seems easier. But every time you trade purpose for pleasure, you take one step further away from destiny. You weaken the muscle of resolve, you dull your focus, you shrink your capacity. But when you train yourself to endure, to keep pressing when it's not fun, to sacrifice when nobody's watching, that's when purpose starts unlocking doors that pleasure could never reach. Pleasure wants you to settle. Purpose wants you to stretch. Pleasure says, just this once. Purpose says, not this time. Pleasure wants to give you something now that will cost you later. Purpose requires something now to give you more later. And the moment you start honoring your calling over your cravings, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because your reason gets stronger. Purpose first, always. No matter what it costs, You train your mind to stay hard by starving it of excuses. Excuses are comfort food for the weak mindset. They give you a temporary way out, but always leave you empty. Every time you choose an excuse over effort, you send a signal to your mind, I'm not ready, I'm not willing, I'm not committed. But when you starve your mind of those excuses, when you strip away every lie you tell yourself to justify quitting, that's when the real transformation begins. That's when your mind learns that comfort isn't coming and greatness is the only option. The brain is like a wild animal. It's going to do whatever you let it. If you feed it fear, it's going to look for threats. If you feed it doubt, it's going to shrink your vision. But if you feed it discipline, if you train it daily with structure, truth, and repetition, it becomes a weapon. It becomes focused, sharp, unshakable. Staying hard doesn't start with the body. It starts with the decision to eliminate your escape routes. No backup plans, no emotional exits, just grit and grind. Every time you choose to move forward instead of retreating into comfort, you're hardening your mind. You're teaching yourself that pressure won't kill you, that pain won't stop you, and that your feelings aren't your master. Excuses weaken your spirit. They give your circumstances more power than your will. But when you kill the excuses, when you say, I'm tired, but I'm still showing up, or I failed, but I'm still pressing forward, that's when your mental armor starts forming. This is why so many people stay stuck. They keep feeding their mind little reasons to quit. It's not the right time. I don't feel motivated. They didn't support me. It's too hard. But purpose doesn't respond to excuses. Purpose only responds to action. You want to grow, starve your distractions. You want to evolve, starve your comfort. You want to lead, starve your ego. Whatever you stop feeding will eventually die. And whatever you nourish will eventually dominate. You have to stop letting yourself off the hook so easily. You've got to become someone who keeps promises to themselves, who doesn't back out when it gets rough. Excuses will tell you to wait until it's easier, but growth doesn't wait. Time doesn't wait. Your purpose sure isn't waiting, and neither should you. Staying hard means doing the work when no one's clapping. It means showing up when your body says no, but your mission says yes. It means silencing the inner voice that's always trying to negotiate with weakness. You don't argue with your purpose. You don't justify mediocrity. You train your mind by doing the hard thing over and over again until it's no longer hard, just normal. And once your mind is trained to push past excuses, the world becomes a smaller place. Obstacles lose their grip. Resistance becomes fuel, and you become unstoppable. Not because life got easier, but because you got harder. Control what you can, release what you can't, and grind anyway. That's the mindset of the unshakable. That's the discipline of warriors. Most people are paralyzed because they're wasting all their energy on things they have no power over. They obsess over outcomes they can't control, opinions they can't change, and timing they can't dictate. And in that obsession, they lose momentum. But the ones who rise, the ones who stay hard, learn to let go of what doesn't belong to them and double down on what does. You can't control the weather, but you can train in the rain. You can't control who shows up, but you can still show out. You can't make people support you, but you can still support your own vision. The problem is too many people wait for everything to align perfectly before they move. They wait for the stars to line up, for doors to fly open, for the conditions to become ideal. But that's not how greatness works. Greatness doesn't wait, greatness grinds. It adapts, adjusts, recalibrates, but it never stops moving. Letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It takes strength to say, I've done my part. Now I'll release the rest. Because the grind is sacred. The effort is holy. It's the one part of the process that's completely in your hands. Whether or not they give you a platform, you can still prepare. Whether or not they call your name, you can still become the type of person worth remembering. There's power in surrendering the uncontrollable and locking in on your responsibility. When you do that, your life stops being chaotic and starts becoming clear. That's why emotional and spiritual detachment matters. It frees you from the frustration of trying to change things that were never yours to manage. It allows you to focus on execution, not expectation. You can't control how long it takes, but you can control how deeply you commit. You can't control who betrays you, but you can control how you bounce back. You can't control every battle, but you can control whether or not you break. So grind anyway. Grind when you're tired. Grind when you're overlooked. Grind when they mock you. Grind when they doubt you. Grind when the results are slow. Because the grind isn't about what's happening around you. It's about what's being forged within you. And every day you show up despite the things you can't control. You build a different kind of strength. Acquire relentless, unshakable strength. You may not be in charge of every outcome, but you are in charge of your attitude. You're in charge of your choices. You're in charge of how you show up. That's where your freedom lives. That's where your power is. You don't need to control everything. You just need to control you. And once you master that, nothing around you can break what's been built inside you. Let go. Lock in. Grind anyway. The enemy doesn't fear your emotion. He fears your discipline. Anyone can feel something. Anyone can get fired up for a day, for a moment when the music is loud and the motivation is high. But emotion fades. Feelings change. Hype dies out. And when it does, what's left? Discipline. And that's what the enemy fears. Not your excitement, not your passion. He fears your consistency. He fears the fact that when the crowd goes quiet, when the lights stop coming in, when the applause is gone, you still show up. That's what terrifies him. Your ability to keep moving forward with zero recognition, zero comfort, and zero reward, yet you still grind like everything depends on it. You see, emotion might get you started, but only discipline keeps you going. Emotion is a spark, but discipline is the flame that doesn't go out. The enemy wants you to live off sparks, to run on hype, to depend on external triggers to light your fire, because he knows if that's your only fuel, you're easy to control, you're easy to distract, easy to break. But when you've built discipline, when you've trained your soul to respond instead of react, now you're a threat. Now you're dangerous. Because you don't just move when you feel like it, you move because it's required. Discipline is spiritual warfare. It's saying I'm not ruled by what I feel, I'm ruled by what I know. It's waking up when it's cold and dark and still choosing to pursue what God put inside you. It's getting rejected and still showing up to practice. It's failing and still studying. It's hurting and still healing. Discipline isn't sexy. It's not loud, but it's holy. And it terrifies every force working against your destiny because emotion gets discouraged. But discipline doesn't care how it feels. Discipline executes. The enemy can't stop someone who doesn't quit. He can distract. He can delay. But if you keep showing up, keep praying, keep working, keep sharpening, he has no weapon strong enough to destroy what discipline keeps alive. That's why the attack always comes after your routine. That's why life throws chaos at your structure. That's why emotions flare up in moments when you should be laser focused. Because if the enemy can shift your mood, he can shift your mission. But when your foundation is built on discipline, emotions don't shake you. They just pass through you. Discipline is your armor. It's your edge. It's what separates the chosen from the casual. And once you understand that feelings are visitors, but habits are residents, you stop catering to your mood and start feeding your mission. Emotion is loud, but discipline is loyal. Emotion may shout, but discipline shows up. And if you want to be unbreakable, if you want to stay hard, then you got to train your soul to stop waiting for motivation and start moving with maturity. The enemy doesn't care if you cry. He just hopes you quit. So don't. Stay disciplined. Stay locked in. Stay dangerous. Emotion is a visitor. Purpose is permanent. Feelings come and go like waves. 1 minute you're on fire, ready to conquer the world. The next you feel empty, lost, wondering why you even started. That's the nature of emotion. It's temporary. It's fleeting. It responds to the weather, to the news, to people's opinions, to how much sleep you got, to a random text message. If you build your life on emotion, your foundation will always be shaky. But when you build your life on purpose, on something rooted, something eternal, something bigger than how you feel in the moment. You become steady. You become consistent. You become unstoppable. Most people are ruled by emotion and wonder why they can't gain momentum. They work when they're motivated. They rest when they're discouraged. They chase when they're excited, and they hide when they're hurt. But purpose doesn't give you the luxury of inconsistency. Purpose demands that you show up when you're inspired and when you're invisible. It calls you to act not according to how you feel, but according to who you are. That's the difference. Emotion screams, do what's easy. Purpose whispers, do what's right. Emotion wants comfort. Purpose wants growth. And growth never comes without resistance. You don't stay hard by feeling good all the time. You stay hard by committing to the assignment even when your soul is tired, even when your heart is heavy, even when your mind is overwhelmed. Purpose gives you a reason to keep pressing when everything in you wants to stop. And once you become rooted in purpose, you stop being tossed around by every storm. You stop letting setbacks define your identity. You stop letting feelings make your decisions. Think about it. If you quit every time it got hard, every time you felt low, you never finish anything. You never become who you were created to be. Feelings are seasonal, but destiny is not seasonal. Purpose is not based on how your week went. Purpose is not based on how people treat you. Purpose is eternal. And once you tap into it, you begin to realize you don't need to feel it to do it. You don't need to be in the mood to be obedient. You don't need the stars to align to be faithful. Emotion will lie to you. It will tell you you're not good enough, that it's too late, that it's too hard. But purpose will always bring you back to truth. It reminds you why you started. It reminds you who you're doing it for. It reminds you what's at stake. If you stop, that's why you need to stop chasing emotional highs and start building purposeful habits. Let emotion visit, but never let it drive. Let purpose be the compass, the foundation, the fire. Because when you're anchored in purpose, nothing can pull you off course, not failure, not fatigue, not fear. Emotion may fade, but purpose remains, always. To stay hard is to remain unshaken, unmoved, undistracted, because your soul is anchored in something eternal. Life is loud. It pulls at you from every direction. Distractions, disappointments, detours. People leave, plans fail, pressure rises. And in the middle of it all, if you're not grounded in something deeper than your feelings, deeper than your image, deeper than the opinions of others, you'll get tossed around like a leaf in the wind. Staying hard isn't about walking around angry or emotionally closed off. It's about having a spiritual anchor that keeps you steady when everything around you is shaking. When your soul is anchored, you're not impressed by surface level validation. You're not chasing applause. You're not thrown off when people misunderstand you or when doors shut. You understand that your value, your vision, your mission, none of it comes from the external. It comes from within, from a place that can't be touched by rejection, can't be shaken by failure, and can't be stolen by comparison. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what makes you immovable. Because you're not just working from passion, you're working from purpose. You're not just grinding to win, you're grinding because you're assigned. Stand hard means you've made a decision to keep showing up, whether it's raining or shining, whether they see you or ignore you, whether it's exciting or exhausting. That decision is what makes you different. Most people live reactive lives. They rise and fall based on what's going on around them. But you don't rise and fall, you rise and stay. You stay consistent. You stay present. You stay focused. Because your foundation isn't weak. Your roots run deep. The people who change the world are not the ones who never struggle. They're the ones who never stop. They planted their soul in something solid, faith, calling, purpose, and they refuse to be moved. And that doesn't mean they didn't cry. It doesn't mean they didn't feel. It means they didn't let those feelings derail them. They didn't abandon the mission when it got hard. They endured because they understood that eternity is bigger than emotion and legacy is built through pressure. So when you feel like breaking, when life tries to bend you, remember who you are. You are not here to be average. You are not here to fit in. You are here to carry something that only a soul anchored in fire can handle. That's why you go through what you go through. That's why the pressure feels so heavy, because your call is not casual. Your mission is not small. You are built to stay, built to endure, built to walk through storms with your head high and your heart steady. Not because you're better, but because you're anchored. Stay hard. Not because you feel strong, but because you're rooted in something stronger. Unshaken, unmoved, undistracted. Stay hard because your destiny depends on it. Stay hard because the ones watching you need to see what faith looks like in motion. Stay hard because your soul was never meant to drift. It was meant to lead. You've heard the call, not a whisper, not a suggestion, a call, a divine command to rise above the weakness that surrounds you, to silence every excuse that has ever tried to define you, to walk into every day with one mission on your chest. Stay hard, not for applause, not for approval, but because your future is watching, your family is watching, your legacy is waiting. You don't get to back down. You don't get to fold. You were not built for temporary. You were built for timeless. And that means you don't move with emotion. You move with conviction. You want peace? Lock into purpose. You want power? Embrace the pain. You want freedom? Let go of comfort and chase the cross. This is not about hype. This is about heaven. You're here because something eternal chose you to carry weight most people run from. So carry it. Stand tall. And when the world expects you to break, you become the break in the pattern. The one who didn't quit. The one who didn't bend. The one who stared hell in the face and said, I'm still here. So from this moment on, no matter the storm, no matter the silence, no matter the setbacks, you make a vow to yourself and to your calling. I will stay hard. I will stay focused. I will stay faithful. Not because it's easy, not because it's popular, but because it's necessary. Because the fire in me will never bow to the fear around me. Because when the dust settles and the voices fade and the trials end, the world won't remember how I felt. It will remember that I never folded. Stay hard. Eternity is counting on it.